Basta! ¡Qué payaso!
Fifth column of independence supporters, how the protests in Barcelona will end. The situation is heating up every day, the number of victims exceeded 200 in Barcelona this week is restless, demonstrators rally, police are trying to disperse them, the airport is forced to cancel flights, and columns of independence supporters are moving to the city. This is the reaction of the inhabitants of Catalonia to the decision of the Spanish court on long terms for those who organized a referendum on the independence of the region. The rallies began on Monday, the number of victims during the protests has long exceeded 200, and the situation is unlikely to decline. Catalans demand freedom for their leaders, while the Spanish cabinet does not even discuss the possibility of pardon. However, this does not mean that prisoners are treated badly. Catalonia has always been a hot place, but now this term is best used not as a description of the local climate, but as a characteristic of the political situation. They protest there at night, set fire to cars, engage in battles with the police and build barricades. According to authorities, more than people are taking part in the protests. Demonstrators throw firecrackers and Molotov cocktails at police respond with rubber bullets. The peak of the protests is likely to fall on this Friday, when columns of Catalan independence supporters will arrive in Barcelona from other cities. There are 5 such columns, which is very ironic in the context of the history of Spain. They moved to the capital of the region from 5 cities: Tarragona, Tàrrega, Vic, Burgos and Girona. The 5th of the listed columns is the largest. The number of demonstrators in it has exceeded 10,000 people, and it is constantly growing. The participants of these columns are walking along the highway, but the police are now objectively not up to them. In Barcelona itself there are enough problems. And passions do not subside there, despite the fact that in the vicinity of the city everything is very peaceful. It is better for tourists not to meddle in Barcelona itself. According to Spanish media reports, tour operators are actively cancelling the planned city tours and are trying to know in advance the situation with El Prat airport, which was also affected during the riots. Now is not the most tourist season, and one of the most popular holiday destinations in Spain is not so busy that it becomes a factor during the protests. Nevertheless, it is better for tourists not to really go to the city. There were clashes between supporters and opponents of independence. And this is almost the main problem. This was very accurately noted by the interim foreign minister of Spain, Josep Borrell, who said that he was sad to see how the term Catalans is used by the Catalan authorities themselves. The fact is that the head of the government of Catalonia, Quim Torra, speaks of the population of autonomy as protesting supporters of independence, while society in the region is split almost in half. The foreign minister rightly recalled that less than half of the region's population took part in the referendum, and supporters of maintaining a united Spain simply ignored the vote. However, they also organized numerous rallies in 2017 and demanded that their voice be heard. That is why, with a high probability, protests are doomed to failure. The 5th column will really destroy them, but not the one coming from Girona or any other city. They will be destroyed by those residents of Barcelona who are not playing now, because, again, they are all happy with Spain. And at the same time, They are hardly satisfied with the fact that at night the city turns into a place of hostilities, and cars burn in the streets and Molotov cocktails explode. As you know, 8 columns took part in the assault of Madrid 80 years, 4 of them were regular troops of General Franco, and the 5th consisted of the inhabitants of the city themselves, sympathizing with the Phalangists. History, as Hegel said, is repeated twice, the first time in the form of tragedy, and the second in the form of farce. However, the prisoners themselves are unlikely to expect anything truly terrible. The reason for this is the Spanish prison system, which is considered one of the best in the world. There are divisions into various prisons that target different criminals. So, people who committed offenses of moderate severity do not fall into the company of those convicted of terrorism or violent acts. In Spanish prisons, the safety of prisoners is very closely monitored. When Catalan politicians went on a hunger strike, they were taken to a medical center, where they watched each of them recover. Spanish prisons, in principle, differ from the perception that has developed about the zone among the inhabitants of Russia. There, prisoners are not required to be constantly in cells. They can study for free in the library, or vice versa, go to the gym, or pool, which is also absolutely free. The prisons have Spanish language courses and retraining programs. If desired, the prisoner can help in the kitchen and in the workshops. For this he will receive 300–400 euros per month. Forced labor and low-paid labor is prohibited by the Spanish constitution. In addition, prisoners' entertainment facilities such as chess or table football are provided. The government spends 65 euros a day on the maintenance of each prisoner, a little less than rubles, which also affects the prisoners' rations. As food, criminals are entitled to coffee with milk, bread and butter, salads, meat or fish, a side dish and dessert. Also, machines with other dishes are installed in prisons, for example, in case the prisoner suddenly wants a hot dog. For these purposes, the government additionally allocates 85 euros per week per person. In short, in conclusion, Catalan politicians are unlikely to have to go through all the circles of hell. Most prisoners will serve time in their native Catalonia, where they are guaranteed weekly meetings with relatives for at least 2 hours. Envy of their position is still not worth penetrating. However, one must understand that the question of the life and death of these people is not worth it, and this also adds shades to the palette of the Catalan protests.